Welcome, dear students. Now we will start our next chapter, Laws of Motion. Before that, we will first learn about force. So let us first learn what are the effect of force. That means when a force applied on a body, what it can do. So there are four effects of force. The first one is it can change the state of rest or of motion of the body. That is, it can produce motion in the body or it can bring the body in rest. For example, if a ball is capped, football is capped, and I will kick it, then initially the football was in rest. As I will kick, it will come in motion. On the other hand, if a cricket ball is coming towards me and I will hold in my hand, then the ball comes from motion to rest. So force can produce motion or it may bring a body in rest. Another effect, it can increase or decrease the speed of a body. If we apply the force in the direction of motion, the speed of the body will increase. And if we apply the force in the direction opposite to the direction of motion, the speed of the body will decrease. Next, third point, it can change the shape or size of the body. Like if we have a balloon and we will press it gently, we will find the shape of the balloon will change. Force on some soft material like a cushion, then the shape of the body will change. Another fourth effect of force, a force can change the direction of the body. For example, if a cricket ball is coming towards me and if I will apply force from a bat, the direction of ball will change. So these are the four effects of force. Now we can define force using these four effects. So what is a force? Force is an external agent which when acts on a body, it changes or tries to change the shape, size, state of rest, motion, direction, etc. of a body. This force can be of two types. Force can be of two types. So, types of force. The first one is known as the contact force. Contact force. And the second one is known as the non-contact force or non-contact force is also known as force at a distance. So let us learn one by one. First about contact force. So what is a contact force? Contact force is a force which comes into action when the two bodies are in direct physical contact. Or we can define the force which are applied on bodies by making physical contact with them. Some examples of contact force: friction force, normal reaction force, force of tension exerted by a string. More examples: force exerted by spring or One more example, that is force exerted on two bodies during the collision. So these all are the examples of contact forces. Another non-contact force, as I said, force at a distance. So the force experienced by bodies even without being physically contact or physically touched. For example, magnetic force, electrostatic force, gravitational force. So these are the examples of non-contact force. Let us learn about these forces. Means first let us learn about contact force. In this, I am going to explain first about frictional force. So what is a frictional force? It is a force which opposes the motion of a body. It is an opposing force. Friction force is an opposing force. So we can define friction force as it is an opposing force that comes into action when a body actually moves or tries to move over the surface of another body. For example, when a ball is rolled on the ground, after some time it stops. The reason behind that, the friction force opposes the motion of the ball and it makes the ball to stop. Another type of motion we can talk, another type of force, that is normal reaction. So what is normal reaction? Normal reaction is a force like if it is a surface, horizontal surface, and on this if I will keep a body, then a force, that means the weight of the body is acting vertically downward towards the center of earth. This weight is action and an equal and opposite force is acting normal to the surface, and this is the reaction. So normal reaction is a force which is always perpendicular to the surface and opposite to the weight of the body on a horizontal surface. Next, we can talk about force exerted by a spring. So what is happening in this spring? As we have seen in this spring, when we compressed or elongate, when we compress or stretch a spring, then we are doing some work. That work done is stored as an energy, restoring force or restoring energy. When we pull it, then what happens? A force is stored inside it, that is called restoring force, and that pulls it back. That force is the force exerted by a spring. So when we compress it, then the restoring force tries to push it back, and when we stretch it, it tries to pull it. So that restoring force is the actually force exerted by the spring. Next, we can talk about the tension force as they applied through a string. So let us see this. Suppose a rigid support is there and a string is kept at this point. Let it be, suppose a body of certain mass is kept there. So what happens in this? The weight is acting vertically downward. A reaction in this string acts in the opposite direction, and both are equal. That's why it is balanced. This force in this string is known as the tension force. So tension force always acts in a string which contains certain load, and it is always opposite to the direction of the weight or load of the load applied on this string. Next, we will talk about collision or force exerted during collision. So in this, what is happening? Two body collides. Let us see in this. Suppose we have a ball A and another ball B. A is moving in this direction and B is moving in this direction. When the both balls collide together, then ball A applies a force on B or ball B applies a force on A. Both are equal and opposite. So FAB, force on A due to B, is equals to FBA, force on B due to A. So this is the force exerted during the collision. So these all I said about contact forces. In this, the two bodies are coming directly in physical contact. Next, we can talk about non-contact force or force at a distance. In that, first we will say about gravitational force. Gravitational force is a force of attraction acting between any two bodies in this universe. And this force is always in attractive nature. According to Newton has given the Newton's law of gravitation. From that we can determine the magnitude of gravitational force acting between two bodies. That is, F is equals to G m1 m2 by r square, where m1 m2 are the two bodies and masses of the two bodies, and r is the distance between them, and G is the universal gravitational constant. So this is the formula to determine the magnitude of force acting between two bodies of masses m1 and m2 separated by a distance small r, and this force is the gravitational force. It is always in attractive nature, and this force is acting at a distance. That's why it is an example of non-contact force. Another type we can say of non-contact force, or another example of non-contact force, that is electrostatic force. As we know, the like charges repel and unlike charges attract. So the forces between the charges are the electrostatic forces. Next, and that electrostatic force also acts from a certain distance. That's why it is also an example of non-contact force. One more example I will talk about non-contact force, that is magnetic force. As we all know, a magnet can attract or repel another magnet from a distance, or it can attract a magnetic substance from a distance. That's why magnetic force is also an example of force at a distance or non-contact force. So this is all about force and contact and non-contact force. In next video, I will explain about inertia and first law of motion. Thank you, students. Thank you for watching.